Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. We are very happy to have you all there. Welcome to this webinar on the potential deep tech ecosystem in Latin America and the Caribbean, and the benefits it can bring to the development of the partnerships with European countries and economies. Okay, we have an audience of more than 250 persons in Latin America, in the Caribbean, and in Europe. So we are welcoming all of you. I hope this webinar will be of your interest. My name is Sergio Bandinelli, and I am coordinating the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator project. This webinar is taking place in the context of that project. The project, the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, you have the name over there, is part of the Global Gateway, which is an European strategy for building smart and resilient collaborations globally in digital, energy, transportation sectors for the empowerment of health, education, and innovation systems around the world. Okay, so this project has the support from the European Commission. The objective of the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, as its name explains, is to develop and accelerate partnerships of companies from Europe, the Latin American region, and Caribbean region. And we are connecting companies that bring innovation challenges in digital transformation with the startups that bring digital solutions to these challenges. This is a symbiotic collaboration, and where everybody wins. On one side, the corporations, they bring these digital transformation challenges, and they have the opportunity to connect with the startups that can eventually bring their talent to address these challenges. On the other side, the startups have the opportunity to connect to corporations, to companies, and develop their solutions, collaborate with them in a venture client initiative or some way of collaborating, and eventually gain a new potential customer. Okay, so this is a way for the internationalization of startups that are either on the Latin American and Caribbean region and want to address European companies, or the other way around is also possible for startups in Europe to work with companies and corporations in Latin America and the Caribbean. So we first support the connection to create these EU-LAC partnerships, and then we provide support to accelerate these partnerships. Okay, so it's not only the matching of these two sides of the coin, let's say, but also the acceleration, and we provide acceleration services to mature these partnerships. In particular, we provide acceleration services for proof of concept and to develop let's say, the problem solution fit, understand to what extent this is a real business case and it's profitable or eventually be profitable. And we also support these partnerships by providing connections with the potential investors, venture capital, and financing institutions that may be interested in further develop the partnership by providing financial and other resources. The project is coordinated by Tecnalia. Tecnalia is a leading research and technology center in Europe, and involves high qualified partners from Europe and Latin America. In particular, we are counting with Wayra. With Wayra, you know, is the corporate venture of Telefonica, with the ESE, which is a very renowned business school, the European Business Angel Network, the European Business Innovation Centers Network, Caribbean Exports, and among others, IDB Labs. Okay, in particular, this partner IDB Labs has sponsored the publication of a very relevant report recently, last year, in June last year, where the title of this report is called Deep Tech: The New Wave. Okay, if you have read this report, my compliments, but if you have not read this report yet, it's available through the webpage of IDB Labs, and I suggest to have a look at it because it shows how deep tech ecosystem is growing and contributing significantly to bring technologies to the market in the form of new businesses and startups in Latin America and the Caribbean. Today, we have the luxury to have a panel with persons and institutions that have not only contributed to this report, but they have also contributing from different perspectives to the development of this deep tech ecosystem in Latin America and the Caribbean. So let me briefly introduce the members of the panels, the 4 members of the panels that you can see their faces already on screen now. On one side, we have Marcelo Cabrol from IDB Labs. He leads the efforts related to scalability, knowledge, and impact within IDB Labs. And he's also one of the promoters and contributors of the report. So thank you, Marcelo, for being here, and for the whole team of IDB Labs for organizing and helping us to organize this webinar. We have also Ignacio Peña. Well, Ignacio has 2 hats, at least 2 hats. Okay, so he's a founder and CEO of Surfing Tsunamis. It's a catalyst for high impact initiatives, and co-founder and managing partner of AR Capital. Okay, so he's here with these 2 hats, Surfing Tsunamis and AR Capital, which is an early stage venture capital fund focused in disruptive startups. So very connected with deep tech. And he's also the main author of this report. So Ignacio knows very well all the details of the work of the report and can bring a lot of insights in this panel. Then we have Maria Renner. She is a general partner and scientific director of GridX. Grid Exponential is a leading organization working in several Latin American countries as a company building, transforming scientific results into startups, and in particular in the area of biotech. Okay? So thank you, Maria, for being here today. And finally, but not less important, I would say here we have the real entrepreneur, which is Dan Etenberg. Dan is a CEO of a startup called LIA Aerospace. And it's a great history that Dan has to tell us today, because he started in an R&D team in a university in Latin America, in Buenos Aires. And this took him to create a company with offices now in Buenos Aires, United Kingdom, and participating through the European Space Agency, through the programs of incubation acceleration of the European Space Agency. He's participating now in producing space propulsion system for satellites. So I think that we have this great, luxurious panel, and it's an honor for me and a great pleasure to moderate this panel. I have 2 brief announcements before we go into the panelists and to hear what the panelists have to say to us. The webinar is being recorded. Okay, so this webinar will be made available through the YouTube channel of the project. So if you want to see it again, it can be accessed through the webpage or through the YouTube channel. And we plan to reserve some time at the end of the webinar to address some of the questions that may come from the audience. So if you have any question or comment, please feel free to use the chat and send us your comments, and we will try to address these questions at the end of the panel. So let's go directly to our panelists. I would like to start with Marcelo. And Marcelo, I would like you to address what is deep tech. We are talking about deep tech ecosystem. So what is deep tech? What is deep tech entrepreneurship? And why it is important for Latin America and the Caribbean?
Thank you, Sergio. And I have to announce that the dog that is behind me that I couldn't corral out is just an assistant and not a panelist, okay? So my apologies for that. I didn't have time to actually push her out of the room. with that said, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here on behalf of IDB Lab. Perhaps I'm gonna just change the way I'm gonna answer your question, and I'm gonna start from why IDB Lab is working on this. So IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, it's a main financial institution for development in Latin America and the Caribbean. Within the IDB Lab, the IDB, we have the IDB Lab, which essentially it's betting at entrepreneurship and innovation as a different way of promoting development. Okay, and we are the only international financial institution that has a dedicated arm to work with venture capital and technological innovation. The second thing that I should say is that we're also betting that technological innovation can promote, like no other, development and inclusion. So both for the development of our countries and also for a better and more equal societies, we're betting that the solution is there. So our journey so far, it's been working very early with technologies, and digital startups were our focus for a long time. What happened with the partnership with Ignacio and many others is that we have started to think that we need to take advantage of deep tech and start as a work on that area, because we think that we have a great opportunity there. And the opportunity is to take advantage of the deep knowledge base that we have in Latin America and the Caribbean, the natural resources that we have, and create value on those natural resources. And also to connect better, and this is important for the conversation that we're having today, and the examples that we have in our panel are archetypical, promote better the connections with the rest of the global ecosystem. So that's the first, and it's important, the motivation for us, why we're here, why we promote this study, and why we think that Latin America, and Nacho will probably go a little bit deeper on this, why Latin America presents an opportunity. The connection with the European Union, it's fundamental for us. Dan probably will tell you a little bit more that. Maria is also a good example of that, the importance of the connection and the partnership that we have there. But on deep tech, we are betting on service and products that have a substantial scientific base. And I think that in Latin America, we have an unexplored one. Also, meaningful technological innovations that have a deep base and a great opportunity of market development moving forward. And perhaps to tell you that we already see in Latin America and the Caribbean substantial interest and investment in these areas. We're still working mostly on biotech, health tech, and other topics that are of importance to us as a region for development. We're going to just increase the base for that and add other technologies in other areas to the conversation. We cannot do that without the partnership with other regions. And there's an important investment opportunity, and also an important, as I started saying, development opportunities working on this area. And this is why we're here. This is the motivation, and that's why this seminar is so important to us.
So I understand that the deep tech has the potential of having additional impact in the ecosystem, in the economy, in lives of citizens, not only in Latin America and the Caribbean, but also in other parts of the world through these collaborations. Okay, so thank you, Marcelo, for these insights.
The study posits essentially that it has a more than proportional potential to have an impact. Okay.
Here is where the exponential comes. Okay?
Exactly.
So, Ignacio, you have participated in first person in this report by actually writing it. You are one of the main authors. So, what are the challenges to unlock this deep tech potential in Latin America and the Caribbean? Where are the barriers, and how can we face them?
Yeah, thank you, Sergio. And let me build on Marcelo's answer, and basically start by saying how large is the potential, sort of giving you a sense of the potential and where we are now, and where we could go, and how to address this potential. So, first thing, in terms of the potential, if we want to create a future where we triple the standard of living, eradicate poverty, and turn the clock back on environmental destruction simultaneously, we need a radical transformation of our productive matrix, okay? So our production systems across the board. And only deep tech innovation enables that kind of radical transformations. Fortunately, there is a massive deep tech revolution taking place around the world. You can see it in humanoid robots, in rapidly reusable rockets. You can see it in biotechnology. You can see it in artificial intelligence, think GPT, etc. And it's moving super quickly. We have never seen a revolution of this size. And Latin America can benefit from this revolution in three ways. The first one is adopting these technologies early on. And there are cases of success there. You can see, for example, Uruguay with about 40% of their energy coming from wind energy, one of the leaders in the world in terms of penetration of that kind of energy. You can see it in Chile with 18% of the energy coming from wind energy, from solar energy. And then you can see it also in Mexico, for example, being one of the, actually the first emerging country to have a factory by Tesla to produce next generation electric vehicles in Latin America. Second opportunity is to build upon these technologies that are developed elsewhere and to do something similar to what's been happening in the last 10 years in Latin America, which is because of the revolution of mobile, there's been a surge of app-based startups that have created hundreds of billions of dollars of value. The most prominent case is Mercado Libre, with over 50,000 employees and tens of billions of dollars of value created. And we can do that, replicate that story with artificial intelligence, building solutions that are relevant for the region, that enable, for example, the democratization of services like legal services to the base of the pyramid. And then the third opportunity is to create new technologies. And that's where we put more focus, and has to do with creating startups that are revolutionary on a global scale, that bring solutions that the world needs. And we found that there are hundreds of startups in this category, and that there are also dozens of VCs that are helping these startups or investing in these startups, 65 exactly, 340 startups, 65 funds investing in these startups, 15 funds dedicated to venture capital in deep tech in Latin America. And all these numbers are growing. In terms of value creation, the most prominent success case is Auth0. It's a cybersecurity company that was sold in 2021 for $6.5 billion. And the rest of the ecosystem is, and every time that you access OpenAI services, you're authenticated as a user by Auth0. You can all see that you're redirected to an Auth0 website for validation as a user, and that is a technology that was created by people from Argentina. The founders were Argentine. But there are many other companies, as I mentioned. Some of them are already worth more than 1 billion. Some of them are listed in NASDAQ. But the opportunity is way larger than what we're seeing today. The opportunity is huge. We think that the opportunity is over 100x growth potential. And we're based on two figures to say this. First of all, in terms of venture capital, you see that we have only 2% of the venture capital in Latin America going to deep tech versus over 20% in Europe or the US. Over 60% in Israel, and also the penetration of venture capital relative to the size of the economy and to our population is very low. So 10x is regional in that dimension, 10 by 10, 100. But then also, if you look at human capital availability, there are almost 1 million people working in R&D in Latin America full-time, and there are only a few thousand that are working on startups. Most of them are working in universities or state-sponsored labs. So it's less than 1% of the people that are doing R&D are doing that in startups. So another 100x potential, plus hundreds of thousands of engineers. I mean, STEM university graduates that are coming out of universities in Latin America every year. So there's a massive opportunity, and there are structural advantages, particularly in terms of the cost of capital, the cost of living of scientists. That provides scientists and engineers. It provides a 5 to 10x cost advantage to these companies. So they're much more resilient, and they're much more capable to do a lot with very little capital. So they're much more efficient in terms of the use of capital. So huge opportunity, and to unlock this opportunity, there are many things that can be done, but I think that the most important is sort of igniting the ecosystems. We have already 14 countries with ecosystems that have been activated, but there is an opportunity to take this to the next level. And to do that, I think that one of the most powerful things that can be done is matching funds for early stage accelerators like GridX, which we will see shortly. This is a kind of measure that has been extremely successful in Argentina. Argentina, despite all the difficulties, is the country with more deep tech, the most deep tech startups. And that is an anomaly that can only be explained because of this kind of policy. But then there are a number of infrastructure projects that can be sponsored in terms of free trade zones, in terms of innovation districts, in terms of share labs, in terms of university accelerators and incubators, etc. And then just to close this, let me say that I think that there, I mean, answering the initial question of the webinar, I think that there are many opportunities for European corporations to benefit from this ecosystem. First, by learning what? Learning that there is an opportunity for cost arbitrage to create R&D centers in Latin America and do the same thing that startups are doing. I mean, they're creating R&D facilities in Latin America, and then they're seeking capital elsewhere, and they're creating global startups with that. Well, European corporations could do something similar. Second thing is collaborate. They could buy products that are cheaper and disruptive and collaborate with these startups. I think that Dan will show the kinds of things that could benefit, for example, European state space companies. Then invest, because there is, I mean, the returns are very attractive. For example, there is an accelerator that has invested in over 1,000 startups, but they invested, the startups that they invested in Latin America have given a 72% gross return year on year for the past 8 years, and that is sort of an anomaly for them as well. So the returns in Latin America are very attractive for the reasons that I mentioned before. And then finally, buying Latin American startups. So many opportunities, and there is a playbook that we present in the report, which I think people can go deeper into. That gives you sort of a high-level view of the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ignacio. Actually, these elements that you are bringing, these are very relevant also for this project, the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, because actually through this project we are trying to make these connections, these business connections, these partnerships between European and Latin American and Caribbean companies and startups. And as you said, on one side, the connection of corporations in Latin America with the startups in Europe is a way also of adopting technology or adapting technologies to the Latin America's requirements. And on the other way around, I mean, like corporations in Europe making use of startups solutions in Latin America is a way also of exporting that talent and being able to get to other markets, okay, beyond Latin America and the Caribbean. And this is also very significant because it's an important way of exporting value from Latin America. And these startups and this entrepreneurial movement is capturing a lot of value in Latin America. So thank you very much, Ignacio. I want to talk with Maria about the experiences that they are doing in GridX. Ignacio mentioned it already, mentioned this organization already, because you are working closely with scientists, with technologists, and bringing, constructing, building new ventures out of these technologies. So you are right in contact with them. So please tell us about your experience and how this is working or not working in Latin America.
Yeah, okay, Sergio, I will. Thank you for the invitation before starting. So as you're saying, I'm part of GridX. I'm general partner and I'm CSO at GridX. I'm actually a scientist by background. So part of what I do is bringing what I know that scientists can do and have the opportunities to do besides pure science into the world, into these market opportunities at GridX. So what we are is a company builder. So as a company builder, we have a model that we developed where we articulate three things. We articulate science that comes from Latin America, business entrepreneurs, and capital. So we need to combine science, for which we actually go to the source. We don't look for scientific startups to invest in, because when we did so at the beginning of GridX, we realized that they were not properly formulated startups. So we decided that we had to go many steps backwards to create those startups and to create them in the best way for them to be the best startups globally, and not only to develop science and then get investment. So we look for science. We need three things when we look for science. We need good science, which of course exists in the region, and I can talk about it a bit more further on. We need to see applicability in that science. We need to see that it will solve a relevant problem in the industry, and we need to see some entrepreneurship intentions of the scientists. So we are doing something particular. We're not looking for science to transfer that into the industry, but we are looking for scientists to become entrepreneurs. But we also articulate them with business entrepreneurs, because we found that the best startups are those in which those entrepreneurs, scientists became entrepreneurs, are not alone, but are together in a team with a business entrepreneur that can make the startup much more potent. So for that, we also look for scientists, for business entrepreneurs, and we put them together. And we developed a program where we help them find the right problem and find the correct formulation of their startup based on that science that they bring, or their know-how, their capabilities of the lab. And then we also we invest. So we are the first investors in these startups. And right now we are deploying our second fund, which is a $30 million fund. And our investment, as you were talking about a bit earlier on, is only the first step. We need our startups to internationalize. We need them to attract investment globally, and that's actually what they've been doing. So we started in 2017, and since then we have invested in 66 startups from 7 countries in Latin America, from Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, and one from Costa Rica. So we are constantly exploring the scientific science in the region, and from these 66 startups, actually to see where they are now, half of them already received investment from other investors worldwide, whether it is VCs or accelerators, always going into the path of VC. So they always have to be globally relevant in what they're doing. And there are already 800 people working in the startups of our portfolios. Approximately 600 of them are scientists doing like proper R&D or other related tasks, but doing like proper scientist work, I would say. And why are we doing it in LATAM? So I think Ignacio mentioned some of these points, but some of them are specific to I will repeat because they are specific of biotech. So on one side, we have a critical mass. So you're talking about people doing R&D in the region. So in particular, there are 200,000 researchers in life sciences in the region. And if we only think that 10% of them can potentially be involved in this kind of endeavors, so whether it is in founding a startup or in working in a startup, but in applying to this sub-world, we are addressing 20,000 researchers in the region, which is a lot for this region. So there's a scientific high quality tradition of science. We have 5 Nobel Prizes in science in the region, and we have international formation of the scientists along their career. There's also, in particular, there's valuable information because we have the greatest biodiversity in the planet. And when we're talking about biotech, biodiversity is very important. It's where they are going to look for answers. It's where there a lot of knowledge and a lot of potential that is very untapped lies in there. And that's something unique of the region. And also, as Ignacio was saying, there's like the talent opportunity of the lower R&D costs that in science in particular are 10 times lower in the region are in the academic system. So they are, which is good to be applied, to be producing science, but I mean, they are not right now in the market of the private sector, and there's a lot of opportunity to grow there. In particular, from our side, we have over 4,000 projects, biotech projects mapped in LATAM, where we have detected some intention of doing something beyond academia with their research. So not necessarily to found a startup yet, but in many cases, yes, but in going beyond only academia. And here it's very important what you were talking about the ecosystem and building with that. So the projects are moving. We move very actively to look for the scientists, to find where the science is, but it's also very important to have the right politics, to have the right relationship with academia, whether it is research institutions, universities, and for them to have the knowledge and to have the right policies to make their scientists be able to follow this kind of endeavors. So in that sense, it is quite important to be always aligned. So we are in conversations to get to know their scientists, but also to move in the same direction, whether it is in matters of intellectual properties or in ownership, because in our particular model, and we think that's a good model for science-based VC startups, is scientists need to be the owners of their science. So in that sense, that's something that needs to be built up with the universities or with the research institutions, which are many times are the owners of the intellectual property that is created. But the power is not only in the IP, it is in the knowledge and the capabilities and what can be done. That's the starting point in everything that can be done with by the scientists when they found the startup. I think that's mostly what I wanted to tell you.
Great. Thank you very much, Maria. Actually, I think it's a very important and necessary work, what you are doing. In particular, in connecting, we call it connecting the 3 M's, no? The M of minds, the science you mentioned, the M of management, the M of the business entrepreneurs, and the M of money, the capital that is needed to actually develop these projects. But you are transforming technology transfer into venture building, into creating new companies, and this is for the benefit of the region, for the benefit of the people, creating a lot of high qualified jobs. You mentioned 800 people working in the companies, and these are in deep tech. These are highly qualified jobs. That is a very good demonstration of the potential that is there. That is just a little bit of all of what can be done. Okay, so my compliment for you, and thank you for these words. And finally, I would like to introduce you to Dan Etenberg. He's actually the representation that this can be done. Okay, and that he has done it, and he has done it with an experience starting from a university in Latin America, in Buenos Aires, working in the R&D team of that university, and that research, that development that he has done there took him to create a company, work with the European Space Agency, and use these instruments that are provided by the ESA in terms of acceleration, in terms of incubation. And this took him to also to the United Kingdom, and now he's leading a company that has operations also in the United Kingdom, and developing high tech, okay, developing biofuels and engines for satellites. Okay, so this is a very good example of what can be done. I would like Dan to tell us about your experience, how this developed, okay, and what were the good and bad things that took you up to here.
Hey, Sergio, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Let me know if you can see my screen. I will share a brief presentation. What we are developing is basically engines, or actually propulsion systems for space. And how this started, as Sergio was mentioning, it started when I was 15 years old, but that's another story. But I started working for space in the last year of my university, making a thruster that actually went to space. And after that, after a few years of that, I started this company that now is focusing on developing safe propulsion. So why space? So in the past few years, we have seen how space access has been changing, and satellites have been going to space at an unprecedented pace. Basically, access to space previously in the past decades was only meant for government and defense purpose. And this meant that it was very expensive, because there were just a few rockets in the world capable of launching satellites to space. And basically, they were non-reusable until SpaceX came in 2002. It was founded by Elon Musk, and he was the first. He made the first rocket that could ever come back to Earth and land and reuse. This reusability changed completely how we access to space and how we use space, because basically a rocket can be used one and again and again. This basically reduced the price of launching satellites or spacecraft to space by a factor of almost 10. So it used to cost about $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 per kilogram. Now you can pay less than $5,000 per kilogram. But Elon did not stop there. He's now working on a new rocket, the Starship. And this rocket is amazing if it actually can develop its purpose to send 100 metric tons per launch, having 3 launches a day, and having the schedule of a train. And it will be cheaper sending some things into space than by DHL cross borders. So getting into space will become incredibly cheap. And this opens a new market and a new approach for what space has been and what can be and what will be. So lowering the price is like having a low cost access to a new place to do business. And not only experimentation and science, I mean, for biotech purposes, you can build new molecular structures and organs or crazy things we've never even imagined. So leveraging on this opportunity of low price and high guidance access to space, from LIA, we're developing basically part of the logistics needed for the delivery of assets, infrastructure, and satellites into, say, deep space or higher orbits than the one the rocket actually deploys satellite. So basically, this is one of our engines working with different propellants. We are using non-toxic and safe chemicals that the industry has been using highly toxic until a few years ago. And this will enhance safer, lower cost, and high repeatability technology. So our technology has been proven on a small rocket a few years ago. I think has some trouble sharing the video, don't worry. But using a flight-proven technology, we designed and built this kind of propulsion systems. And what they do is they are built into a satellite or a spacecraft, and they allow this spacecraft, satellite, or space infrastructure to be located in a very precise place in space we call orbit. This could also be used for going into the moon, landing on the moon, landing on Mars, and many other space maneuvers that we will need in the coming years. Among others, these are a few of typical orbital changes you need to do around the Earth or Earth and the moon. And our development is basing on a family of products that will basically allow startups having a way lower cost than a space agency or a huge corporation to go farther and faster. So with this idea, basically, I started in Argentina. Of course, I was born and raised in Argentina. I got into a British embassy a few years ago. They got really interested. I got into a program called the GEP. And with that program, I got a innovator visa, which allows me to work and live in the UK, where we opened basically an office. We have people working full time there. And with that, we could apply into European Space Agency Business Incubator program. So basically, using the guidance and the connections of European Space Agency, we got into places like fairs, exhibitions, and very exclusive visits into the biggest and the most interesting space corporations and companies. Last year, we got to visit OHB, Airbus space factories, basically where they manufacture huge satellites, very expensive machinery, and I'm talking about satellites that can cost about $200 or $500 million. And they are very interested in our technology. And this only happened thanks to our connection through the European Space Agency to these companies. In this image here, you can see David Pyle. He's the General Director of Northrop Grumman in Europe and the UK. And this is Martin Lee, Procurement Manager of Airbus Defence and Space. These are two huge companies. And basically, this would not have happened without the help of ESA. And ESA and the British government were a door that opened and allowed us to go into the European market and then even into the American, the US market. So thanks to these programs, we got to have a visit into the headquarters of Northrop Grumman facilities in Virginia in the US. So basically, I'm running out of time. So in a very short approach, in Argentina, as Ignacio was telling before, we have an amazing hunger, an amazing talent to get things done in an amazing short time and with, I would say, limited resources. And we get it done and it works. And people from other countries get very surprised of the talent and the capabilities. And basically, starting from Argentina, we can grow into a global company of amazing valuation and amazingly big contracts. These defense space contracts are millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, and it all started from Latin American technology and people. So that's basically about it. And I'm ending my presentation with this beautiful Isaac Newton phrase. And that's about it. So any questions, please feel free to ask.
Great. Thank you very much, Dan. It's really very motivating what you are telling us. I see that one of the key elements that make you grow and eventually cross the Atlantic and get into into Britain in this case was through contacting also corporations, big corporations, deep tech projects in general. They require not only labs, but also, let's say, more industrial scale experiments. And this is typically done through corporations or companies that have some possibilities for development these projects, these entrepreneurial projects. So I would like to open the floor to everybody in the panel to talk about these elements that make it possible to further develop the connections and the startups, the scale-ups, the projects, the entrepreneurial projects that are born in Latin America with this global idea of global potential, and how these projects can be connected to Europe and other parts of the world. Okay, so I don't know if anybody wants to bring their thoughts on this, okay, on how to get these connections at international level. Marcelo, Ignacio, or Maria, I don't know if you have any insights.
Yeah, the case of Dan is very telling. I think that the UK is doing a very good job in terms of reaching out and trying to attract startups from everywhere, actually, not just from Latin America. And I think that that's the best approach, to have a global approach, and then, of course, extend that to Latin America. I think that Spain is also doing a good job in that sense. Luxembourg is doing a good job in that sense. So I think that in terms of governments, that's what can be done. In terms of corporations, I think that there is an opportunity to increase the awareness that this is an opportunity, and I mean, just reading the report is one thing, but also traveling and getting in contact. I mean, doing searches, looking for the startups that are relevant to your company, and do business with them.
I would also add. I have 2 points here that I think that are for us are super important. The first one, pivoting on what Maria was saying about, connecting the entrepreneurial and the companies working in this area with government programs and government initiatives working on this. And this is an important point because, what we have understood now is to have more entrepreneurs working in the deep tech area means more scientific personnel working that. It means in many cases, scientific personnel that work either for universities or they're subsidized by government programs. So what we are also working from the IDB, from the public side of the IDB, that is to say working with governments, is to have more of the programs that are actually doing some research and development, some fundamental investment there, to be more flexible and more open to the opportunities that venture capital and company building actually brings to the table, not only in biotech, but in other topics. So I want to put that on the table. And the second one, very quick, Sergio, is the issue of global exchanges. We, for example, have a very good relationship with the government of Korea, and working with global exchanges in which we have actually put together deep tech companies from Korea and Latin America working together. That means, and that needs, medium to long-term commitment. But these global exchanges, essentially, they provide a platform for more companies like Dan's or Maria to have a softer landing into a new global forum.
Yes, I definitely agree with Ignacio and Marcelo. So soft landing opportunities are crucial. Connecting is crucial. Startups which are very new and are maybe are trying to look into the global opportunities, but might be more biased into looking into one place or another. It's also good reach them and to see opportunities there. And one thing that we have tended to see over time is hearing from universities or government agencies that have become with which corporations from Europe or the United States or whatever have become in contact, which is always good, of course, but it's also good to be in contact directly with the startup ecosystem, because opportunities might be very different if you go directly there. Of course, the options are more scarce because there are less startups than scientific projects in academia, but they will be more interested. They will have a different rhythm, and well, yeah, it's the Latin American startup rhythm in biotech at least is very accelerated, and there's a lot of energy there to do very good collaborations and to start a work in common.
Yes, I would like to recall what Ignacio was saying at the beginning, in the sense that we are living now a moment where we have several disruptions coming together and new technologies that are enabling big changes. Okay, these big changes are, of course, bringing on one side problems. I mean, changes that will leave some companies out of the play, but will also provide a lot of new opportunities. And there is really a very good opportunity for Latin America and the Caribbean to develop this opportunity based on the scientific knowledge, based on technology development, based on the entrepreneurial activities of the people living in Latin America. And on the other side, we have companies and other corporations and so on that are opening up their innovation processes. Okay, they need to innovate with a higher speed, and the way to innovate with higher speed is by connecting with external forces, and this includes, of course, entrepreneurs. Okay, so in the EU-LAC Digital Accelerator, we are specifically addressing this issue of connecting corporates and startups here crossing the Atlantic, or even, I mean, working between the Caribbean and Latin America. This is also possible. We want to create these connections, and actually these connections, we are hoping that they come into reality as LIA Aerospace did, okay, in the case of the Dan Etenberg. Okay, so we want more DANs everywhere in Latin America, and we want more LIA's aerospace companies that develop, that they eventually find the opportunity to find a corporate that is eventually adopting that technology, using that technology. We know that this is not just purchasing something as you do in Amazon, because these technologies require adaptation. They require some kind of validation to see if there is actually a problem solution fit, and if this is really something that is a business case. But this is something that we are addressing through the project, and we are providing also the instruments, the tools for this to happen. Okay, so I would like to finish this webinar by mainly addressing the ways in which we can provide this kind of support on one side to corporations, okay, corporations in Latin America and in Europe, by publishing their challenges. Okay, they are facing these disruptions: digital disruption, the green disruption, climate changes. I mean, lots of disruptions that are changing completely the markets, are changing the value chains. So they need to rethink about their offerings, and this requires new ideas from outside. Okay, so these challenges are the point that's the starting point for us to connect them with the startups on the other side of the Atlantic. And we see here a big potential of creating EU-LAC partnerships. Okay, so partnerships that involve agents from both sides of the Atlantic, and then to accelerate these partnerships by providing services to them with the support of all the partners of the project, including not only Tecnalia, but also, I mentioned, IESE, WIRA, other partners that are happy to support these partnerships. And in particular, I want to make an announcement, because on the 1st of February, so in a couple of weeks, we are launching our first call for partnerships. Okay, so it will be an open call. So for all the partnerships from involving companies from Latin America and the Caribbean and the Europe that want to participate in this, of course, they are very welcome to present their applications to this open call. Okay, so this is the website of the project, EU-LAC Digital Accelerator.com, very easy, okay, EU-LAC Digital Accelerator.com. Through this website, you can either present challenges if you are a corporate, present your startup profile if you are a startup, and browse through the challenges of the company. And you can also present yourself as a partnership to the acceleration process, the acceleration program. So once more, I would like to thank our panelists, Maria, Ignacio, Dan, Marcelo. Thank you a lot for your time, for your interest, for the work that you are doing, and hoping that we have, as I said, many times in the near future. You will receive, all the attendants will receive a brief questionnaire, and we ask you to answer this questionnaire that will help us to improve these webinars and all the activities that we are doing through the project. Any question that you want to ask us, it's very welcome. And well, big thanks to the panelists, to all the attendants, and have a nice day. Either if you are in Latin America or the Caribbean or in Europe. Okay, so good morning or good afternoon. Bye-bye, thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.